Serve Taught, and today I'm here with Turhan Douglas, the first African American coach to coach USC's men's volleyball team, and he did so for 4 seasons. He also won a national championship as a player at Long Beach State, and in doing so, was placed in the Hall of Fame. I'd like to start off with asking you, can you share your journey into volleyball and what inspired you to do so?
So I actually started off as a baseball player at a young age. My dad got me into baseball, which was his sport, when as soon as I came out of the womb, I was playing baseball. And when I got to junior high, I had a PE class, and I fell in love with the sport. And to my father's uh, dismay, I just went head on with it and started playing in high school. And Pops wasn't too happy about it, but as I started to have some success and win, then he finally came on board with it. Had a little success in high school and wanted to continue that career in college. So I ended up going to Pierce Junior College in Woodland Hills in California, and won a state championship there as a captain, and went on to Ohio State. Things didn't work out there. I ended up at Long Beach State and ended up winning a national championship there in 1991, which was a long time ago. But the entire time, I just fell in love with the game, and I actually, as a source of income, I started coaching when I was my first year in college. So I started coaching girls volleyball, and I was coaching a club that's travel ball with um, indoor girls high school volleyball, and then I went into junior college, and I just it just snowballed into you know getting to SC finally.
Yeah, I can relate to that because I myself I help out with the high school team, JV and varsity. I help coach them, and then I also do coaching during the summer at my club
Yeah.
with like the little kids, help them get their fundamentals down.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You fall in love with it, and the life lessons. I had a coach at Pierce College. His name was Ken Stanley, and they called him Big Daddy affectionately, and he became a father figure to me. And of course, I
Mhm.
have a dad as well, but 90% of my time was spent with my volleyball team and coach. And he taught me a lot of things, integrity, and I was kind of a knucklehead kid as well. And not kind of, I was a big time knucklehead. And he just kind of kept me in line, and became a mentor. And when he found out I wanted to continue and my career in coaching, he really, he took me under his wing, and taught me all he knows. And he's he was actually a former basketball player at USC, which is funny how our paths are kind of similar. And
Mhm.
he was a basketball player against John Wooden. And actually, he was such an impactful player that John Wooden himself wrote a chapter in his book. There's a book called They Call Me Coach about Ken Stanley, which was incredible. I happened to come across it. He doesn't brag about it or anything like that, but
That's amazing.
yeah, John Wooden said that Ken Stanley was the most out of all. I mean, gosh, this guy, he coached everybody from Walton to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and everybody. He said Ken Stanley was the most competitive player he's ever coached against in his career, and so that was my mentor. So I had super blessed to have a coach like that. So from there, because my life was changed so much, I was like, yeah, I just wanted to give back. And for me and well, for him anyway, it was all about character, having a good character, and that having a good character translates into wins.
Mhm.
So that was the priority, and that's kind of my philosophy. is character first. So when I teach,
What did the your coaching philosophy start out as, and how did it like evolve into good character?
holy moly, that is a good question. I've been asked, I've been at this for 30 years. No one has ever asked me that question. That's really, really good. In the beginning, I was very impatient,
Mhm.
and I could not understand how they couldn't do things exactly the way I wanted them to do it. And one of my favorite lines was, what's wrong with you? So I was very impatient, and I had yelled to get my point across. And I found over time that wasn't the most effective way to coach. Um, and so what you find is that um, when you coach that way, you're basing everything on fear of you instead of bringing out the leader in that player. So
Mhm.
you want to, as a coach, number one, you have to care and you have to truly love that player. And then when you discipline that player, then they don't misinterpret it as you're punishing them, right? You're teaching them out of care for their success. And once the player recognizes that, uh, then they'll follow you. If they feel like they're loved and you care about their success, they'll follow you. And so it's not a trick or a scam or anything like that. You just have to truly care about people
Mhm.
as a coach, and then from there you learn um, how to bring the best out of players. And that's the hard thing. And I think that's why coaches love coaching, because there's no two players that you can coach the same, because everybody's different. So there's a challenge, in that
Yeah.
everybody has a key to their heart, and you have to go through the keys and find the right key to open up that door. And then some players, you never find that key, and and that's fine, because there's no perfect coach, and you're not going to be the perfect coach for everybody. But when that happens and you're able to, you know, direct somebody in the right direction, and help change lives, it's rewarding. And so that's what that it keeps you coming back for more.
Mhm.
But that's an excellent question.
Thank you. Um, Another question is, can you share your most memorable coaching moment from your career?
Yeah. So it stands out. I had a kid. His name is David Krakow,
Mhm.
and I was coaching a club team. We were ranked at the time. We were ranked number one in the country. Well, it was Junior Olympics, so we were, in effect, number one in the world. And so I had another kid. He's a setter. His name was Steve. And these two guys, they shared the same position, and they were pretty equal in terms of their skill and ability, and the same height. I mean, everything. But David Krakow had that something, that intangible something where the players responded better to him. And so I would switch them back and forth, and they'd get 50% of the time for the most part. But when it came down, came down to the wire, I always knew I had to have David Krakow in, because he had, that special something.
Yeah.
And so one day, David Krakow, we had a huge, we were in the semifinals of this huge tournament. It was a pre-tournament before the Junior Olympics. And all the recruits were there, all the scouts, everywhere, Hawaii, Long Beach. I mean, everybody was out. And David Krakow came up to me and he said, "Coach, I think you should put Steve in." I was like, "What? What do you mean I should put Steve in?" And he looks at me and he smiles and he goes, "I think Steve can win." And I was like, "Okay, all right, I'll do it." And I put Steve in, and I think, if my memory serves me well, I think we kind of got in trouble, and I ended up having to put David Krakow back in, and then we eventually won. And I mean, it gives me goosebumps and I tear up sometimes when I tell this story, but that was the first time I saw selflessness. You know, the guy, just David knew that how badly Steve wanted this, and he was willing to sacrifice him getting seen by other coaches for his teammate. So I developed, or I took on the philosophy the definition of teamwork is caring about your teammate's success above your own. And
Mhm.
that's to me in a nutshell, that's really it. You know, it's that's love, you know, caring about your teammate's success above your own. And so we went on to win the gold medal against Canada, a team that there's no way we should have beat Canada. But David Krakow was at the helm. And after we won, we went on stage, we got our gold medals. And Steve, the setter who didn't play that one game, um, walked off. And we spent all night looking for him in the middle of Dallas, Texas, and just kind of ruined kind of everybody's night when we should have been celebrating. You know, we're out looking for
Mhm.
Steve because he's pouting, you know, he's all about himself. So anyway, that I tell that story almost every year to players because there's just some players that you'll find, and I think it's very rare that, that believe that. And I don't know, it's amazing. And then you have the players, of course, that are like Steve that, just hopefully, I think maybe he learned a lesson from this. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him in 30 years, but but I hope he's a better person because of it. So that's the
Mhm.
story.
Do you have any strategies you use to handle conflicts within the team?
Ooh. um, yeah, because almost every year that something like that arises, and I think it's different between males and females. And I think
Mhm.
a lot of whenever there's a conflict, most of the time it's a misunderstanding, and I think even more than that, it is players have not taken the opportunity to know one another. And so, you can get a bunch of players in a room and you just go around and you ask them, hey, Johnny, do you know Michael's, how many brothers Michael and sister Michael? Do you know how many brothers and sisters does Michael have? Is what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
And 9 times out of 10, they'll know nothing about each other's family, or they'll know nothing about, hey, well, do you know what Michael's aspirations are? You know what he wants to be when he grows up, or they have nothing because they haven't spent any time with each other. So a lot of it is just not knowing each other. And a really quick, interesting story. There was a coach. His name was Jovan at when I was at USC, and we'd have coaches meetings, and I was in with just gosh, the great. There was Pete Carroll was there. We had Tim Floyd, the former Bulls coach, was there. He went from the Bulls to USC, and I mean, we had the top coaches in the world in the room. And Jovan gets up and he's like, "All right, guys, I'm going to tell you He won 2 national championships in a row in water
Mhm.
polo. And he's like, "All right, guys, I'm going to tell you the secret to my success for winning 2 straight national championships." And everybody's sitting in their chairs. Okay, all right, give us the secret sauce. Not that they haven't had any success, but he says, "You know what my success is?" He goes, "Pizza night." We're like, "What?" "Pizza night." He says, "Every Friday, my guys have to have pizza night." And they have the best time. They watch movies or they go bowling, but they have a pizza night every Friday. And he said that camaraderie, when they come together every Friday now and they love each other, now they're willing to fight for each other. Now they're willing to take a bullet for one another. And
Mhm.
that's how we do it. Because when it really comes down to it, at that level, everybody's talented, everybody's strong, everybody's tall. But it's those intangible things like love and people being willing to lay down their lives for their teammates. That's the secret sauce that makes champions or championship teams.
That's really good to know because that kind of reminds me of uh my team when we're out on tournaments, because I feel like nowadays it's more common because to see teams going out for lunch or dinner after they're done playing, let's say 3 games a day.
Yeah.
Um, because I know personally we do like Mexican nights a lot. We'll go out to some random Mexican restaurant in whatever state we're in, and we'll just have like a good time before we go back to the hotel.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, man. That's so key. Yeah, all the teams when the teams that I won national championships with or state championships with, um, I mean, it was just like that. I mean, it was before the cell phones.
Mhm.
Everybody's at the table and on their cell phones now, but um, back then it was just like we were glued to each other, and we would whenever we would go someplace, man, we would just we would tear the house down. It was just we were the
Mhm.
boys, and there were no cliques or anything like that. It was just everybody was one, and yeah, it was fun. And I still, after 30 years, I still talk to these guys every once in a while, and actually more than every once in a while. So it's yeah, it's awesome, and I think that's the beauty of being on a sports team or some type of a team where you develop those relationships that last a lifetime. I just actually got a text from a friend of mine today.
Mhm.
Um, actually two of my friends that I played volleyball with in high school, and I'm 55 years old.
Mhm.
Seeing how I was doing here in Florida, I'm like, man, I played volleyball in high school with these guys, and they're checking up on me. So it's beautiful. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
That's
You'll
nice.
see. You'll see. 30
Yeah.
years from now, I'm gonna be like, hey, Deuce, what's up, man?
I'd like to jump back in time a little bit to probably when you were in high school. Growing up, what was your favorite move or play in volleyball?
Ooh. So I played all three positions. Well, all three positions. I played outside, but I right side, but I mostly played middle.
Mhm.
When we did something when I was in my first year in college, it was called we did a flex offense, and what that simply means is wherever you are, you stay and you hit. Because I can hit middle, I can hit outside, I can hit right side. So we just kind
Mhm.
of did it like that. But I really enjoyed when we ran the X plays. Um, so I would maybe run a three, and they would come. It's a shoot play, and that they would come inside and hit a two inside of that. So an
Mhm.
X2 and a 31. Um, so I like running the combo, but I really liked hitting a ball. We called it a shaky. And it was when I was on the right, here's the setter, and I was on the right, and I would come
Yeah.
around and I would jump from where the setter is, but then I would float in the air, and he would just drift the ball past the middle blocker, and I just go boom, boom, and it's really hard to stop.
Yeah.
you know, it, you had to have a good pass, obviously, to do it, but it was just,
Mhm.
yeah, it's devastating when you connect it on a ball like that, just flying.
Yeah, it
you know,
sounds pretty fun.
yeah, we call it shaky.
What was your favorite pre-game meal or snack?
Oh man, gosh, I was poor. Not that I have any money now. um, I didn't eat a whole lot before a game. I found that
Mhm.
when I performed better on an empty stomach, or if I just had a little salad or something like that.
Mhm.
But I would recommend, if you're gonna eat before a meal, it would be at least 2 hours before you play.
Yeah.
Because some people, they'll eat like right before, and then I'm like, well, what do you? So maybe even 3 hours before um, you play. Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I would just say like something super light, like a light salad or something like that. If I did eat it all, you get butterflies too. So I never really had an appetite, like.
Yeah.
So
Um, I have a double question this time. Your favorite teammate and your toughest opponent.
oh, I don't think I can answer the favorite teammate one because
Someone might get mad.
yeah, no, no. Gosh, I have so many. There's not like one guy like I can name Kenny, Roddy. Um, uh, Brett Schroeder, Alan Knipe, who was at probably Alan Knipe is up there. He's the head coach at Long Beach State right now.
Mhm.
Um, he, yeah, and then there's, gosh, Brett Winslow. Oh, you know what? A guy named Patrick Sullivan, who was one of the captains at the time. He's just, boy, like, so when I'll tell you. So when I was at Long Beach State, um, there was the travel team, the top 12. I was in the top 12, but I wasn't a
Mhm.
starter on that team, and because 5 out of our 12 players were on the U.S. national team. We were that good. I mean, we won the whole thing
Mhm.
against USC in the finals. But that was just a powerful team. And Patrick Sullivan, he would bring the second team into the locker room separate from the starting six before every practice. And he'd bring us in. He'd say, guys, listen, we all want to play. We're all great players. We can play anywhere in the country, but we're here, and and we're not starters, so that's just tough. But he says it's not about us. It's about them. So we need to prepare to kick their ASS every single practice. And he'd
Mhm.
fire us up, and we just come out of the locker room, just, you know,
Yeah.
and we beat these guys like all the time in practice. It was crazy
Mhm.
because we were on a mission to make our team better. And so that was one of the greatest lessons I think I learned from any teammate. Um, that was from Pat Sullivan. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he's, yeah, I definitely, one of the top guys. I had a guy, Terry Schrump, um, who played with me at Pierce, and he would play mind games with me at the net. Like, so he
Mhm.
was right next to me, and he would look over at me and just smile and go, "Ooh, bro, look at this block. We're gonna kill him." And it get me fired up. I'm like, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
He's such a, yeah. I don't know if he knew what he was doing, like leading me or getting me. I think so, but just yeah, he was a master in getting me pumped, and I won a state championship with him as well. Like guys like that, like just phenomenal leaders. So yeah. Anyway. Oh, and then what was the second question? I'm sorry.
Your toughest opponent.
Oh, that was well, USC. That was against, at the time, they said it was the best NCAA team ever assembled in the history of volleyball. That was a guy named Brian Ivy, 6'9", Jin Kai Lu from China, one of the best players in the world. They had Nick Becker, all these guys you can look up. They had Tom Selleck, who was his son, played on the team. Kevin Shepard, and there's a lot of guys on that team that, I say
Mhm.
these names, you have no idea who they are, but if you lived at that time, they were the best of the best in the country, and we beat them. Like, they beat us every time we played them. We were the top two in the nation. They beat us every time we played them until we got to the finals. And yeah, we beat them in four. It was pretty much a miracle, actually. But yeah, we did it.
Mhm. I'm gonna switch over to the minority aspect of the game. So, can you share um your role models growing up uh in the sport?
Yeah. Karch Karai, of course, who is the head coach of the women's U.S. national team
Mhm.
right now. He was the best player in the world. Everybody looked up to him. So guys like that on his team at the time. Pat Powers, who was the best hitter in the world, probably to this day, who I got to coach with at USC. I was an assistant there 3 years before I took over the head job, but he was the head coach there, and I learned so much from him. Pat Powers, Jeff Stork, who was on that team, the best setter in the world at the time. I know Jeff, got to know him personally, and um, Stavertlick, Doug Partee, Craig Buck, all those guys were the best in the world at the time. So that's what really got me hooked on the game. I watched them on
Mhm.
TV, and I was like, man. I just remember one of the turning points of my life. I was going to go into acting, actually. I did some acting in high school and all that, and I got a little scholarship, and so I was, kind of a big deal on my own campus and in my own mind. So I was
Mhm.
going to go into that. And then I got a letter from Ken Stanley at from Pierce College, and it was a handwritten letter, which that's you don't get that much today. And he says, "Yeah, I heard you're a good player, and love to have you on the team and all that." And when I was reading the letter, I was watching USA versus Cuba. And I'll never forget watching that game on TV all those years ago. This was in 1987, maybe 1987, I think,
Mhm.
um, which is a long time ago. Where were you in 1987?
Nowhere.
You were in heaven, ready to come down. Um, so, yeah, I remember watching that game, and that was just kind of one of the crossroads in my life. Like, I, I made a decision right then and there when I got that letter and I was watching that game. I'm gonna play volleyball, and that changed the course of my life. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I could have, I could have been the next Will Smith and have all these millions of dollars, but I wouldn't trade that for not having any money now and playing volleyball. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, no, I think I made the right choice.
Yeah. Do you think, or how do you feel your cultural background influenced um, your approach to the game?
It's funny. I grew up in I was bused
Mhm.
into an all white school, and so um, when I was young in the fourth grade, that's when busing began. Anyway, for me, and so I mean back then, for me, I didn't really recognize, they're white and I'm black and all that and all, like it wasn't that until you start getting older and people start teaching you
Yeah.
the differences, which is evil. And so when back then, in the '80s when I was playing, um, very few. I mean, still to this day, very few male black volleyball athletes.
Mhm.
But there was some that played. There was three of us on my high school team. Um, but then the really big, strong, tall athletes. Those were they played on the basketball team or they played on the football team and all that.
Mhm.
But I remember when I was playing I was in Golden West. It was down in Orange County when I was at Pierce College and in the '80s, and they were heckling me. I was good. I was good. For junior college, I was a really good player. I was one of the top, at least in California. I know that much. And they started heckling me to get in my head, and they were calling me Action Jackson. And I remember, yeah, I was a white guy in the stands. I mean, everybody's white except for me. He was like, "Look, everybody, it's Action Jackson." And I actually laughed. I thought it was funny. I didn't like. I don't remember taking offense to it or I thought it was hilarious. Him calling me Action Jackson. And it was a movie. That
Mhm.
it was Carl Weathers who did that movie, Action Jackson. That was the guy who played Apollo Creed in the Rocky movies. So he did a movie called Action Jackson. So anyway, that's still funny to me to this day. And so I didn't really run into a huge problem except for with some reporters and some not too much with coaches, but I had some reporters and some people that because I was white, so I always had a white assistant, so they would
Mhm.
always go to my assistant if they wanted a story or something like that, and then they would find out I was the head coach, and sorry, I'm like, it's
Yeah.
they just kind of assume. And I've had players refuse to shake my. I mean, it happens all the time, or it did back then. Refuse to shake my hand, um, but I didn't really let it bother me. And and I do remember having experience with a couple of reporters, one in particular. that I felt, was really did me wrong, and I felt it was racially motivated. Um, but whatever. It's his problem. I think the one of the greatest lessons that I ever learned was from Ken Stanley at Pierce College, and he said, "Turbo, you can't allow other people's problems to become your problems." He says, "When you do, you're just taking a monkey off of their back, and you're putting it on yourself." So he'd always say, "Turbo, don't take that guy's monkey. Don't take his monkey. The monkey is the problem." I think you get that.
Mhm.
So, I just figured, okay, well, these guys have problems. I'm not going to let it affect me. I'm not going to let that, I'm not going to internalize that and let that change who I am on the inside. He has a problem. I'll just, God bless you, and let them go on their way. But so that really helped me deflect those things. That would happen. But for the most part, I'm in California, and it wasn't that bad, to be honest.
How do you think the volleyball community could become more inclusive and supportive of diversity?
It's funny. I don't think. I honestly don't see any real racism in the sport.
Mhm.
I haven't seen it, and I've been deep, deep, deep in it for over 30 years, and that means that I'm coaching white girls, and I've got their parents, and I've not one time in my life. Now I don't know if it's happened, but I've never experienced uh, anybody, or lost a player, or had inexperienced any racism when it comes to that. I think they just a play a parent or a player can see past skin color, and they can see, you know they see what they see is they see your knowledge, and they see your heart. And hey, is this guy going to make me a better player? Is this guy going to get me where I need to go? And yeah, so I haven't really seen it, to be honest. And I think the most beautiful thing, and I'll tell you this, I coached at Santa Monica College for years, and I had the most interesting year one year. We had a guy from China,
Mhm.
Japan, Iran, um, um, Europe. I'm trying to think of the country. Um, we had some Europeans. Now, Santa Monica College is one of the most diverse colleges in the world. Um,
Mhm.
we had someone that represent almost every major nation. Africa, we had a guy from Africa. Um, it was crazy, and the one of the Japanese guys, his name was Hiro, didn't speak a lick of English. Oh, we had a guy from Lebanon. Um, yeah, I mean, and I remember saying, like, all these people from all of these different cultures and different backgrounds, you're able they can work together because you have one common goal. And if you have one common goal in mind, you can get everybody on board to on board with what your vision is. Then you've got something special. And we had zero problems. And guys wanted to learn each other's language. Hey, Hero, what does this mean? How do you say that? Like, it was a blast.
Mhm.
um so I think sports, when you get to sports, and I think music is like that too. It just kind of transcends all of that.
Taking the music metaphor analogy, it's almost like you have to show someone the song you like in order for them to start playing it themselves or listening to it themselves. So it's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
because if someone's already listening to their own genre of music, or in this example, if someone's already playing football and you show them volleyball, they're probably
yeah.
not going to play volleyball if they're already committed to a sport.
Right, right. Absolutely. Yeah,
But other
that's
than
true.
that, I feel like um, I haven't seen, from what I've experienced, the sport is very inclusive.
Yeah,
at least where I am and where I'm from, it's very, oh, you want to come play? I'll teach you how to do this, or
Yeah.
um, let's just have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Same experience. Yeah. Even back in the 80s, it was the same thing. Yeah. I went to the beach. In fact,
Mhm.
I had more favor when I went to the beach. I don't know if I was, kind of like a novelty or, whatever they call it, but, it was me and my friend. I had a friend named Roderick Anderson that I played with. And we played, we competed on the beach, for prizes and stuff at these tournaments. And we were both black. Everybody
Mhm.
was white, but there was another team, a guy named Steve Anderson. Gosh, I forget the other guy's name. Oh, he'd kill me. Um, but anyway, we were all, just high flyers, all super athletes. We go up, boom, didn't have the best ball
Yeah.
control, but when we got the right set, it was just boom, boom. It was exciting to watch. And so whenever we played each other in a tournament, we'd have the biggest crowds. Everybody would come out and watch. It's like, oh, I don't know what they would say, but oh, the brothers are playing. Let's go. Like everybody have a huge crowd. But I mean, they were. It was just, we're all good. Um, so that was legit. I'm not saying they just came out because of our race, but it was just kind of funny to see. So we kind of made fun of each other. We called our team. We were called the Soul Patrol, and then their team was called Sexual Chocolate. So that's,
Mhm.
we just joked with each other like that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, Sexual Chocolate is from Eddie Murphy's movie. What was that? Coming to America. Um, it was a band called Sexual Chocolate. That anyway, this is
Mhm.
old 80s, 80, 90s, 2000, early 2000 stuff.
Yeah. What kind of legacy do you hope you left behind on the sport of volleyball?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's just simply teaching my players not the game of volleyball, but kind of the game of life. If I could, help my players see, what it means to have integrity and to play with honor and to be, good sportsmen and care about each other. And like I said earlier, learn how to be a true teammate, and that is to, care about your teammate's success above your own. That's to me, that's the biggest deal. And the biggest reward that I get from that is when they'll write me a letter or an email or give me a phone call or shoot me a text, years and years later, like, hey, coach, I remember one time when you said this, and man, it really helped me, or it really, changed the way I thought about this, or, that to me is like, it's more special than, getting any kind of gift, by far, so yeah, so that's what I hope, my legacy is hopefully I've led some people in the right direction.
Mhm. From what I've heard, I definitely think you have.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
Thanks, Deuce. I appreciate it.
No problem. Um, is there any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah, Deuce, where do you live? Where do you play again? Yeah,
I live in North Carolina,
that's
and
right.
I play for my high school team at Cary Academy. I also play for my club team at Triangle Volleyball Club.
Yeah, what position do you play again?
I'm a right side slash outside.
Oh, nice. How
Hmm.
high do you jump?
I can touch 11. Yeah,
Whoa,
I hit
that's
that
nice.
hit that
Yeah,
milestone. I think it was at the end of last season. So now I'm just working on getting higher before I test again.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, you'll keep. I went from when I was in high school. I tested at I think it was like 35, 36 inches when I was in high school.
Mhm.
And then when I got to college, because of, we did sprints and all that, didn't really work out much, but just sprinting, everybody has that potential to grow.
Mhm.
I went from 36 inches. When I was in college, I jumped 48, 49 inches. I was almost at 50 inches. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And I'm only, at 6'2", that's how I was able to play middle and win a national championship. You can't play at
Hmm.
that level at that height unless you can fly. So yeah, I flew. But then when you lose it, you got to keep it up, man. Don't ever lose your jump. It's so frustrating because you can't do the things you used to do. And it's like, I used to be a contender. But anyway, um, so yeah, man. So wait, what grade are you in? You're a senior?
I'm a junior.
You're a junior.
Hmm.
Gosh, well, you're doing something great, man, with this podcast. You're a great interviewer,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, and those questions were awesome.
Thank you.
Really, really
I'm working on it.
good.
That's all I have for you today.
Well, thank you, Deuce. I appreciate being
It
here.
was a pleasure.